everybody. Lee here. Thank you for watching and or listening to Leading with Lee. I'm super excited that you are here with me today and to talk about life, leadership, and legacy. If you have not done it yet, go and subscribe today on YouTube and all podcasting platforms. I have a very, very special guest today. He's going to share a little bit about himself, but I like to welcome to the podcast and vlog, Deon Bonaparte. How you doing, brother?
Hey, what's going on, Lee? Thank you for having me.
I'm so grateful that you say yes to this, and shout out to your assistant Cassidy. She was getting emails back quick.
She holds it down. She is efficient for sure.
Most def. Well, now let's jump right in. So, just kind of talk to me a little bit about your story. I think every person has a story and they have something to share with the world. So just kind of tell me a little bit about you and your background.
Yeah, for sure. You know, I always tell people, do you want the long version or the short version? But I'll kind of give the medium version right here. You know, a bit about me. You know, when I was a kid, you know, I always had this kind of mind for strategic thinking. You know, one of the first games that I played was chess. You know, chess was my game. I loved to play it. And when everyone was doing well in school, getting A's and B's, I was getting A's on the chessboard. You know, I didn't necessarily do well in school. You know, and so and so that really led into this whole thing growing up. So I just wanted to find what I wanted to do. You know, where I'm from, you either did one of three things. You either went to jail, you happen to get good enough grades to go to school, you know, or you end up working at a factory, you know. And so I actually ended up working at a factory for about 2 or 3 years, you know. And then so then from working at this factory, you know, doing the same thing every day. Anyone that has worked at a factory knows what I'm talking about. You know, and then, you know, being at the factory, I told myself, I said, man, there has to be more than life than just assembling parts, you know. And so, you know, and so I remember one day, you know, I decided to pick up a book, you know, and then, you know, they say that it's hard to, you know, it's hard to be something that you haven't seen, right? And so it's hard to be someone that you have not, you know, seen. And so I remember, although I didn't see who I wanted to be in my community, I saw it in books. And so I would just read. And so then from school, from working at the factory, I ended up getting back enrolled in junior college. After my fourth time of dropping out, I ended up going back to college. And then I ended up getting acquainted with this thing called brand strategy and advertising and marketing. Where I'm from, they don't really talk about that. So I didn't get introduced to it until I was about a junior in college. And then from there, I just started to read books, you know, about the whole thing. And that was kind of all she wrote. And then I was like, oh crap, I remember being 8 years old, being this chess and strategic thinker. I just applied that to what I do now. And so it's just been amazing. That's kind of the quick Cliff Notes version of my background and, you know, kind of how I got to where I am.
You know, that's interesting. It's something that you said that like really stuck out to me. We may talk about it in a second, but I don't want you to people to miss this point, is that you kept trying. Like with college, you kept going back and saying, hey, I'm going to be keeping consistent. I think a lot of people struggle with failure and having moments where they have to go back and do something over again. I could go there, but I'm going to ask you a question later about that specific thing, because I think that your story has a uniqueness to it that like a lot of times get lost when we talk to leaders. Yeah. And so I think that that's a great thing. Let me ask you, where are you originally from? Are you from Chicago?
I am born and raised south side of Chicago.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's funny. I have family in Chicago. I think everybody from the South has some family connected to either Detroit, Chicago,
Midwest.
Yes,
it's
somewhere. Yes, there's somewhere in the country, but I think it's great. But
great migration. Yeah.
Yes. That's a whole history lesson, and you know, we could go there, but we're not going to do that right now. But so you talked about how you just kind of saw this aptitude towards just strategic thinking and trying to create brands. Like, how did that drive you to like start a business?
Yeah, for sure. You know, it's funny. You know, when you graduate from college, you know, most people they end up want to work at this big company, or they want to work their way up the ladder, and that's fine. And I believe that, we do need those kind of people. But, I said, I just want to start my own thing. I want to start my own business, and really do it the right way. I think that I hear a lot of people say it, but a lot of people don't know how to execute it, and so and so then what we'll do is we'll knock a 9 to 5 because we want to own our own business. But the thing is, I'm going to tell you, working at a 9 to 5, the job that I had before I started my own business, I worked at the top digital marketing agency in Chicago. And so what I learned there, I learned about work culture. I learned about all of the soft skills that you need to run a successful business, being on time, job culture, being respectful in meetings, how to communicate effectively. These are the things that, that you have to accompany your skill, and what you want to do. And so I worked there. And so when I decided to go into business for myself, literally, I patterned myself after seeing it done at a really high level, running the business at a high level, and so I just implemented. So and I worked a 9 to 5, I never would have been ready for what, God wanted to do with me, and so upon starting, this work in this job. And so I noticed that I had an aptitude towards strategic thinking, and again, even in groups in college, I would kind of rise as the one that would be the leader of the group, or, people would look to kind of guide it. And so I knew that there was I knew that there was something there. It was definitely in seed incubator form, but I just kind of had to dive deep to see what was there. And from that, I realized that, again, I'm really good at this thing. And so instead of taking the school route, I just decided to do my own thing. But I think that no matter which way you go, it's valuable. It's just a matter of finding what works for you and getting in that lane and going for it.
Wow, that's great. You said something that was super key that I kind of want to hone in on. You talked about how, I think this may be a running theme throughout this conversation, because I can see it already.
Yeah.
There is just like a lot of moments where you specifically saw yourself just going towards certain things.
Oh yeah.
What
For sure.
as far as college is concerned, and even in the marketing space, what were some of those things that you learned and said, okay, this is good for business for me, and so I'm going to take this and apply it to when I start my own business? Like, what are some of those things you picked up while you were there?
Yeah, that's actually a great question. I was just talking to one of my team members about that very thing. I said, when you work at an internship, you typically flock towards what you want to do and be, right? Like, for instance, the internship that I had was a digital marketing internship. Yet I learned a bit about digital marketing, but what I really learned was how to run a business. That's what I really learned. I took after I really latched onto the CEO of that company, and I just began to see again how things were done. So a few of the things that I learned from him, one was how to have a healthy work culture. Now, all of the jobs that I've been to, that's something that most jobs, more organizations struggle with. Whether whether it's a church, whether it's a job, whether it's an organization, whether it's a business, culture has always been lackluster. So this was the first time where I went into a culture and it was so healthy, and I was like, how is he doing this, right? And so first of all, what's good to notate is he was just a good person. Let's just start there. So he was just a good person, and he wasn't a church guy or anything like that, but he just believed in doing right by people, and so then from that, I just began to learn and see how he would talk to his employees and see how he would talk to his team members and his associates and his peers. One thing that he did that I even took that he shared with me, he said, Deon, I spent about 10% actually working, like doing work. And I spend 90% investing my time into people. And I develop the people, and then the people develop the business.
Yes.
And that is how you grow an organization. But that you can only do it that way when you first can acknowledge, what your role and your position is as the leader of the company, raise people up, and then raise up the business as a whole so we can be successful in that way. And I think that, again, that was, out of all of the nuggets of what he taught me, that was the thing that just really stuck and just went home with me. Yeah.
Dude, yes.
Yeah.
That's so powerful. You know, it made me remember, you saying it made me think about this book that I just recently read. It's by Simon Sinek. I don't know if do you know who Simon Sinek is?
Yeah, I know Simon Sinek. Yeah.
Personally, I
Amazing.
love Simon Sinek.
Yeah.
And he wrote this book called Start With Why. And one thing he actually talks about in the book is getting people around a vision, or getting them around the very thing you're talking about. Like realizing that it's not the leader that's actually the driving force behind the organization. It's the people that are in the organization that are the driving force behind the organization. And that is such a profound thing. Like, Deon, that's so good. And it made me think about this. I want to ask you, how are you in your organization, like cultivating a culture of creativity, because you learn those things, but what are you doing at your business to make sure that happens?
Yeah, for sure. Again, great question, man. I am keen with culture. If you ask anyone on my team, you know, what's something that Deon values the most, they will absolutely undeniably say culture, because that's something that I realized with all of the other corporations, organizations that may do the same thing, is that's what will separate us. Our culture will separate us in what we do. When we work with someone and they see that not only do you guys know what you're talking about, but you guys are on the same page, harmonious, you communicate well, you're efficient, effective, like that, the client can feel that, you know, the client can feel when you guys are on the same page and working together to accomplish a goal, you know? And so a few things that so I'll go practical, and I'll also talk about some theoretical things that we do as well. The practical things that we do is every morning at 8:30 a.m., we meet for a morning huddle. You know, we meet for a morning huddle to talk about what we're doing for the day, what we have going on for the week, you know, what we'll be doing to accomplish our goal, whether we're working for a client, whether we're working, you know, for another business, or we're a partner with someone. You know, we're all on the same page about what is our agenda for the week, so we can all be on the same page. Okay. Another thing that we do is we also use tools and technology as well. You know, whether it's Slack, you know, for my big business people, you know about Slack. Yes. You know, so Slack. We also use Monday.com. You know, so some people may know about Monday. We use the G Suite or organization, and we also use Zoom. You know, and so these platforms, they help us to stay integrated and connected, especially now with work being virtual. Even when we start going back, you know, to work and, you know, working 9 to 5 and actually going in, it's still, you know, the work culture is leaning more so towards being virtual, and companies that don't go that way will be left behind. And so so that's those are practical things that we do to invest time, that I do to invest time every day with my business. Now, some other things that I do is, you know, every month I have a one-on-one with each of my employees, you know,
great.
Yeah, man, just outside of work. We don't even talk about work in those one-on-one. I say, no, we're not going to talk about work. I don't want, let's just talk. What's going on with you? How's your day? How's life? I actually had one of my team members just moved. She moved from she just moved from Kansas to Chicago to work for the business.
Wow.
You know, and so with her, you know, one reason why she was really sold on moving is because one of the things I told her was, listen, you know, you made a commitment to, you know, this team. Listen, we got you. You know what I'm saying? We got you. And let me tell you, you know, she has been sold out for the team. Has it all been, you know, just pretty and, you know, everything's been well? No, there's been things, you know, and kind of fallouts and dropouts, but we've always been able to meet and come together. Why? Because we're like-minded on what we're trying to get to and what we're trying to accomplish. And so when building a culture, yes, be on the same page about work things, but also value your team members. Guess what? Because that's a human being. Like, that is a person. So you have to be able to connect to the person. And when you connect to the person will connect with you, and they will go above and beyond, not only for you, but for the success of the company as well.
Yeah. I can go on a whole tangent. I'm not about to
Go.
but no, there's so much wisdom in what you said, because I think so many people are struggling with that idea right now. Like,
Yeah.
people are trying to navigate, how do I do well in my career in the middle of a pandemic, in the middle of a recession in some ways, in the middle of so much economic turmoil around people, and you encouraging them to understand that, like, hey, if you're on my team, I got you.
Yeah.
That's something
Absolutely.
so reassuring for employees. And I
Yeah,
think
man.
that's something encouraging for leaders to actually start thinking of their businesses and organizations in that way. I,
Yeah.
I think that that's such a powerful and very practical approach to how to
Yeah.
do business well. Like,
Yeah.
you know,
Absolutely.
business is about relationship, isn't it?
Yes, it's relationship driven. Absolutely. It is relationship driven. And to be honest, to try and build an effective company, like, and I mean really build a company, not, you're just a solopreneur and you just have,
Mm-hmm.
and you just have some contractors. Now, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. That's fine. But if you're really trying to do, really do something and build a team and employees and different things like that, you have to be relationship driven, and then and when you are intentional about your relationships, again, the relationships that you build, that's what creates the continuity with each person to create the harmonious effort to accomplish something. And I cannot speak to, even if we think about the Bible and the Tower of Babel, right? The reason why God had to confound their language is why? Because they were all on one accord. And guess what? They were going to accomplish their goal.
Yeah.
So, what God said, I need to put a monkey wrench in a bunch because these people are locked in. They're on one accord.
yeah.
And if I don't step in now, they're going to hit there. And so that same methodology, that same kind of thinking, if we can apply that to, if we can apply that to first ourselves and being aligned, with ourselves, our creator, you know what I'm saying? And then also let your spirit flow from you to the team, and then from the team to who you're serving, man. That is the secret sauce.
Yeah.
That's not a secret.
Yeah.
That's the secret sauce. That's not a secret. We make things so deep sometimes. We try and apply all not that, and don't get me wrong. You know what I'm talking about, Lee? Listen,
Yes,
don't get me wrong.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Listen, we make it so deep, but we just need to go back to the foundation. Go back to the foundation and pick up those nuggets about, how to just be a decent human being, and how to lead myself well effectively so I can lead others well, and then those others can lead others well, and then we can serve our people, our clients well. If we could just think about things from that perspective, whether it's in work, whether you're in church, whether you're in school, whether you're trying to build relationships with your friends, it all starts with, again, aligning yourself first, and then you being focused on being intentional with your relationships, whether it's in work or not. It starts with you, but we have to be relationship driven. That's the key to success.
I love that answer. I want to point out something that you said that I find really interesting, is about relationships are so key for us in our growth. But I have a question for you. How do you balance with deadlines and demands? Because you as a business owner, you know this to be true, that like, if your clients are asking for something to be done, but you're spending a lot of time with your people and they're not, getting stuff done in a timely manner, like, how do you push them or encourage them to like meet the deadlines that we need to meet the standards that we need to meet? Like, how do you translate that in language with your employees?
That's good, man. There's two ways to really separate this question out. First of all, if you are a solopreneur, right? If you're a person that is kind of just you, and you're right, right. So, just a solopreneur is just which is fine. We all start out that way, and so if it's just you, and then you're working with your client, and you may just, have a few contracts, and maybe you have a virtual assistant, something like that. Of course, most of that weight is going to fall on you. Now, the good thing about being a solopreneur and having it just you, this is a perfect time to work out all of your kinks. This is a perfect time, to work out all of those things, that you need to work out, whether it's, whether that's you showing up 5 minutes early to a meeting, whether that's you, just kind of building out your processes and systems with how you deal with clients, and really thinking about the foundation of what you want to do when you actually have an organization, a team of people. This is the time to do it. This being a solopreneur, when I first started out, which was just last March. But when I started out with a virtual assistant. It was us for like maybe 2 or 3 months, and let me tell you something, that time was invaluable. I had times did my processes right, my systems, how I wanted to work with clients, what worked, what didn't work, and to be honest, that process always evolves. Even like at this level, it's always something that you're learning, right? So that's one thing. That's kind of how you want to approach that if you're a solopreneur. But if you have a team, again, if you have a team of people that you're leading, you have deadlines, like in what I do, brand strategy, research development, actually creative, whether it's a website, a logo or strategy, or, market research or anything like that. There are certain deadlines that we have to hit. Now, this is important to recognize. First of all, first thing is this: you have to know what is your position on the team. Now, the reason why that's important is because a coach will never go and play quarterback on the field. Okay, a coach will never go play quarterback on the field,
Run that back. Run that back. That's really good.
Listen, you have to know your role, because again, if you are the coach, right, it is your job. It is your job to make sure that you are giving, first of all, the quarterback, the team, everything they need to be successful.
Yes.
Listen, give them what they need to be successful. Is it some other software that they need? Maybe they need some more gear, some other tools. What do they need so they can actually win the game, quote unquote? So they can meet. And so in this case, it'll be meet the deadline. What do they need so they can meet that deadline effectively? Because guess what? As a coach, it's your job to make sure you're drawing up the right plays. You need to be drawing up the right plays so your players could then go out and execute the game plan effectively. And so guess what? Like John Maxwell says, everything rises and falls on leadership. So if you aren't, drawing up effective plays, supplying your people with the right tools, giving them what they need, then guess what? They may not hit that deadline on time. Why? Because it's all going back to you. What could you have done to make sure that your team was more equipped and effective? Because guess what? As a coach, and I'm also effective, in knowing this too, if I'm going to be the coach, it's not my job to go and, the quarterback not doing their job, let me go in and be the quarterback. It's the wide receiver, the shooting guard, they're not doing their job, let me go and step in and do their job. I believe, because if you do it like that, and I do hear people that say, well, you need to step in and do it. I hear that argument. I believe, though, if you really want to build a successful culture, a successful team, you have to empower and equip. You have to empower and equip.
Oh yeah, that's wisdom.
Empower and equip. And if there is a time where you do need to, walk them through something, and maybe you help out that one time to, make sure that they get it right, then that's what you do. I'll say this, and then I will be done. I was reading the book. I believe it was the name is slipping me, and I know that you probably know it. It's Effective Habits of a Man.
I actually have the book.
Yeah.
I can't think of the title.
I know it's slipping me, man. It's right on the tip of my tongue. I know it's going to come to me like right when I'm done telling the story. But one thing he did, one thing that the guy talked about in this story was, he said that he was going on a plane, and then as the plane was ascending into the air, that the plane started to shake and experience some turbulence, and the plane was about to, obviously something was wrong with the engine, so as they were in mid-air, the plane would have crashed if they had not turned around. So they had to turn back around. Now the reason why that was happening with the plane is because the guy that put the gas into the plane, he put the wrong fuel into this plane, you know? And so he said this, it would have been easy just to step in and say, you're fired, get somebody else in to do the job. That's not what he did. He said, hey man, it's okay. Matter of fact, I want you to fill up this plane again, you know? And so they ended up flying the next day, and everything was good. He put the right fuel in and he did what he was supposed to do. Now, why is that important? Because he took a moment that could have destroyed him. That could, you know, he was already feeling bad. Oh crap, I put the wrong fuel. They could have died, feeling terrible. But he took that moment to do what? Empower.
Yeah.
Empower him.
Yes.
Empower him so that he could go out and do the job effectively. Because the checkers thing to do is let me just step in and do it. That's checkers. Chess is let me empower you so that you can be not only will you be more mindful going forward, but now not only will you think twice going forward, you know, but now I'm empowering you to, you know, make sure that you're building up your skill set and you're building up your acumen to do what you need to do so we won't have this problem again. Empower. That's how you play chess. That's how you play chess.
See, I think you just gave us a one-liner. Let's play chess and not checkers.
Let's play chess and not checkers. Come on, that's
so
what
good.
I'm about. Yes, sir.
You know what, Deon, that could really encourage somebody, whoever's watching or listening, if you really understand what he's saying about how important it is to give people second chances. That's what actually builds teams. You know, I didn't think I was going to even go here, but it's coming to my mind. You know, we live in a culture that does not give space or grace for making mistakes.
Yeah.
Like, even in the conversation about cancel culture, and I'm not this is not my conversation with you, but I just want to point this out.
We can go there if you want to. Oh man, it's crazy.
Like you're talking about actually giving somebody else an opportunity, because it seems like that is, and I'll allow you to comment on it because I'm about that. But it seems like we don't recognize that people are human and they are not invincible. Like we're expecting people to get every answer right, every situation right, every talking point right, every business decision right, every relationship right. You know,
Absolutely.
I mean, if you ask the average person, did they think the person that they were dating was the right person when they started dating them and they've broken up with the person, they will all say yes. But if they're not in a relationship with anymore, they can't say the person's horrible. Well, it just didn't work out. It wasn't the right fit for where you were going. And you might have it might have been a good relationship, and you made some mistakes along the way.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
But can you grow from that? Like, I'm gonna let you come in.
Absolutely. You know, and let me tell you something. I think that to even think about this too, you know, and I'm gonna kind of and I'm gonna go spiritual here for a second. You know, how is Jesus with us? You know, he gives us so much room for, you know, to make errors and to, you know, to fall down and get back up and clean ourselves and dust ourselves back off again. You know, I always tell people where I am today is nothing but God's grace, because there's nothing I have done to deserve anything of that nature. But again, you know, this also takes me back to what I was speaking about earlier, being relationship driven. The thing is, you know, when we are talking about being relationship driven, whether that's with your friends, whether that's at business, whether that's at work, it's all about this world. It's all about It's all about relations, connecting, communicating, doing life with other people, because that's the only way that we get to, you know, our expected and our desired outcome, right? You know, that's really the only way that happens. And so, you know, when I'm thinking about, you know, how do we get to, you know, how can we leverage relationships, you know, so that we can make sure that I'm connecting and I'm giving grace to, you know, whoever doesn't meet the mark, because guess what? At the end of the day, you're not perfect. You're not perfect. You know, there are ways where you don't hit the ground, where you don't meet the mark. And so just like you're not perfect, you need to give others that same grace. Relationships, they are not your, you know, your slave, you know, they are not your, you do what I tell you to do. No, it's about community building, because we're all working towards a goal. We're all working towards accomplishing something of value in our life. So I would say that's my take on that, man. Relationship. I think that we need to get back to that, get back to knowing that.
I think that's so good. And, I want to kind of stay in that vein a little bit, because like we just kind of briefly talked about cancel culture and how relationships actually give you
no grace.
None at all. None at
no
all.
Grace.
And I'm not saying some of it is not warranted. Some people need to be checked.
Oh, well, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, definitely.
They need to be checked for growth purposes, not necessarily just check just to,
right.
Because we
for
just
shame.
But check for growth purposes. Let's kind of say there, how have you dealt with obstacles? Because I know, I mean, you mentioned earlier that you started a business, in May of last year, and I'm like, whoa, you hadn't even, you not even at a year yet, bro. How are you dealing?
It's crazy.
with from being an employee to now being a CEO of a company? How are you dealing with some of the obstacles of getting started? Because there are people that watch this and listen to this who really feel like a lot of fear and trepidation about taking that first step. Like, how are you dealing with that?
Yeah, man, that's so good. This is really good stuff. I'll say this: obstacles in every season looks very different. Yeah. Depending on the level that you're at, there will always be an obstacle, but it's going to look so different. The old church, they used to say, "New levels, new devils." That's what they used to say.
I hear my grandmother right now, as you said.
You know what I'm saying? Hey, my grandma was the one that told me that. So if I want to bring that, and make that a bit more practical, when there are new levels, there are new obstacles. When I first started out, I just kind of give a brief background to kind of give context to what I'm about to say. I started my business in March 22nd. We became an actual business, right? And so right around in May, that's when we actually had our first client. We made around $700. I was like, oh, I was so excited, but then quickly I learned that, you know what, this thing is kind of growing because, one person after another will start to take notice of what we were doing. And so,
you and your blue wall bless me. I said, these videos are dope.
Appreciate you, bro. I appreciate you, man. Listen, man, within like the first 5 months of business, we did 6 figures.
Wow.
And
wow.
so we did. It was crazy. We did six figures like the first 5 months of business. I hired a team of about 5 people, and now we're on track to do 7 figures, within the next 7 months. And so, and I didn't say that to brag in any way. I said that to give context, because the thing is, when you're growing, let me tell you something, the growing pains are real. Growing pains are real. There was a situation where I had a client, and she was paying a lot of money per month to work with us. But the thing is, though, we grew so fast that I didn't have the proper systems to be able to keep that kind of a client. We grew so fast that client came a bit too early. And so, there were certain things that I needed to have in place in order to support that kind of a client. But I didn't have that I didn't have that support, and so the client ended up leaving. Why? And of course, like I said, going back to John Maxwell, everything rises and falls on leadership. So then I have to look back and say, man, what was it that didn't retain that client? And so one of the things that it was that what I did to start the business, I wasn't doing to keep it, and so although what you would do will evolve depending on where you're at. As you get people, you can kind of just, do less and less as you get the people to do more and more, but I left from a position that I was most successful at. I'm a great facilitator. I am a great facilitator of a team of specialists. And when it comes to getting something done, I know how to put people in the right place to make sure that happens. What I tried to do, I tried to quickly prematurely hire someone to take their role. And so because of that, that ended up in this whole big catastrophe. And so, but what I'm saying is this, that was a great learning moment, because I knew that, okay, this is what I need to do now going forward. This is what's effective for my company. This is what's effective. So I could have seen it as an obstacle, but I let that obstacle turn into an opportunity for growth. You know what I'm saying? And I think that as you grow, you have to realize that obstacles will always be there. But it's important that you turn those obstacles into opportunities, because your opportunity is what takes you to the next level. And that's how I've looked at. And so, and that's how I've always looked at what I've done in my life. And so the thing is this, if you work hard, if you're diligent, if you're in your lane, if you're honestly aligned with what God wants you to do, the opportunities will come. The opportunities will come, the money will come. You don't have to worry about that stuff. What you have to worry about is making sure that you're ready when it does come, that you have the systems set up for when it does, that you have the process set up when it does come. Because guess what? It's not about when obstacles, if they come. Obstacles will come.
Right.
And you have to make sure that you don't react, but that you respond.
Yes.
And then when you respond, that's when it turns into an opportunity. When it turns into an opportunity, that's when you go to the next level. And so that's what I would encourage anybody to do that has an obstacle. That's the best way to approach it.
Listen, I'm trying not to run.
You get me fired. You get me fired up, man.
Listen, this is not necessarily a Christian podcast.
Yeah, for sure.
You about to have me running in here, forget all the Pentecostal in me is about to run across. But no, for real, that's so good, because I think it's such if it's not encouragement to anybody, it's definitely encouragement to me, because I'm literally at that spot. I've been given this incredible opportunity with the company that I work for to do an outside project for leading, like for me. Like, wow. They're asking me to do something that's outside of the company. And I'm like, having that moment where I'm in my head, I'm like, you've been kind of preparing for this.
Yeah.
This is it. Blogging for the last year or two, and now a company sees that you're doing something. They're like, "Hey, we want to hire you to do this," and now you're having this moment where you're drawing back.
Yeah.
What encouragement? And it brings up a question: what encouragement do you have for people when they get the opportunity and there's something in them that causes them to fear or feel like they are not qualified to do what is in them to do? Like, what are some encouraging things, or what are some strategies that you took to actually address that?
For sure. And I actually read this in a Steve Harvey book. It was one of the first books that I read. And he said this simply: do it anyway. Do it anyway. The fear will be there. The fear will be there. Am I good enough? Am I qualified? All of that stuff. No matter what level that you're on, let me just be really frank and transparent. That never really leaves. To be honest, one of my mentors, he had a $2.5 million deal on the table that he lost, and yes, and that's exactly how he felt. And just like how you felt, and so because there was just some things that came up that he didn't quite expect. And so, but what that did was he was expecting his money to, kind of take care of his business for a full year. And, he just had plans. He kind of popped the champagne before anything was actually delivered and set in stone. And so that had repercussions. One of the things that it had was, he just simply, and I'm trying to think of the best way to say it, but that brought about a certain level of fear. And am I adequate enough? And can I actually do that? And was I good enough? And so it just brought about these, and I think that the word for it is this imposter syndrome. Yeah. It brought about this imposter syndrome of, can I do this? But, again, if you're presented with the opportunity, first of all, let me say this. You're ready for it. It's your job to make sure, though, that when you're coming into it, you're not letting the fear cripple you. You're not letting, you're not letting those ill thoughts stop you from doing what you're created to do.
Yeah.
What you're designed to do. Yeah. Lee, you know that you're ready for this. You know you're equipped to do this. You don't even have to think twice about it. Why? Because you've been prepping for this for a while now.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Like, right. You've been prepping for this for a while. So, even before this opportunity came, you were already putting in the work, putting in the processes, putting in the systems, making sure that if this opportunity did come, I'll be ready to go. And so I would say this, we have a lot of people, and I want to be careful. I don't want to get canceled, but we have a lot of people.
Sometimes telling the
you know
truth
what I'm saying?
is not worth canceling.
Come on.
Sometimes you need to come for people's throats to remind them that that this is not a game.
Come on.
This is some real stuff.
This is real life. This is real life. And don't you let IG fool you for 1 second. Don't you let Instagram fool you for 1 second and think that, oh, it's just simple. I'm making 7 figures and no. Like it is fraudulent. It's not real. And if you think that's real and that's the way you want to go, I guarantee you, you're setting yourself up. You're setting yourself up to be a disaster. This is not, that is not the way. All right. Anything that's worth keeping, come on, I'm gonna say that. Anything that's worth keeping and working is worth working hard for. Nothing stays unless you work hard,
Yes.
And so the thing is, if you expect it to stay, if you expect it to be of substance, get ready to go deep, because nothing grows unless you go deep.
Yes. I'm trying to control myself. I'm so serious trying to control. That's real. Yes. Because I can't tell. I even say for me, I can't tell you how many ads I have seen, how much stuff I have seen about people pushing. If you pay this and do this, and I'm not saying that some of the processes don't work, but a lot of people want to get to stuff quick, and I think we all have been guilty of that, right?
Yeah,
we all have been guilty of wanting a viral moment that we can monetize for our own personal success. But to be honest, and we're not talking about this, but most wealthy people, it actually took them time to get their wealth. Like they're enjoying their wealth generally later in life.
Yeah.
That's a real thing. Like they might have got money. I ain't talking about, you gotta have, they got millions.
Like money, millions. Not 8 million.
Yes, millions.
Yeah.
You said something that made me think of this. I think a lot of people don't realize Warren Buffett didn't become a billionaire until he was like 53.
53. And most people don't know that. Yeah, he was much older.
That means he's only been a billionaire for the last 30 years of his life.
Right, which is still a long time. Yeah.
Right. Let's not minimize how long that is. But just thinking about the fact that you're right, we can get so caught up in instantaneous moments. And I'm not criticizing, I don't think either one of us are criticizing people who have had viral moments.
For sure.
Like if you know how to capture that moment and build on it and do great things, that's amazing. Because there have been people who have done it.
Yeah.
They did exactly what you said, Deon. They had the systems in place. They were doing all this stuff. And just so happened at the right moment, because they were ready, this viral thing happened. And
yes.
And they were able to they just kept going up.
Kept going. They had a Kairos moment, which is the right place, right time. And the thing is just, right place, right time. It's not a matter of, that kind of life is for them and not me, or I can't have it, or, I know that they can do it, but not me. I don't have the right circumstances. I didn't grow up in the right area. I didn't study the right books to do it. No, guess what? Time and opportunity happens to us all.
Yes.
Time and opportunity happens to us all.
That's so good.
But how many of us are ready when time and opportunity happens?
Yeah.
That's the question.
Yeah.
That's the question. Before any of this happened, it kind of like, and it kind of goes back to the saying, you see the glory, but don't know the story. Most people, they'll see, oh man, success happened. Oh, you've been successful, etc. Whatever that means nowadays. It means so many things. But but most people don't see the the 10 to 12 years of going around in circles in life, dropping out of college 4 or 5 times, graduating high school with a 1.7 GPA, told that you will never, be nothing. Your dad telling you that, you'll never be nothing. No one sees the story to get to that place of your becoming, right? No one sees that becoming place until you become it, and so once you become it, then people are only judging what they see. You only can judge the tree off of what you see. You see it's high, big, and beautiful, but you don't know how deep those roots go. Yeah. And so, like I said, if you want to go high, you have to go deep. And I'm afraid that we live in a generation that wants the instantaneous, response, and there's a fear to go deep, because if I go deep, it'll probably take too long. And then if it takes too long, I'll miss my moment. But that's a lie. That's not real. Yeah. When you take your time, when you go deep, that's when you find your moment.
Yeah.
Let me even say it like this. That's where your moment finds you.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh,
that's where your moment.
That's so much.
Where your moment finds you.
Yeah. There's so much wisdom in that. I listen, I have 3 or 4 more questions, but I'm gonna let that just sit, because that what that does is it flips on that idea on its head. That I need validation from doing this 5-step process to get to this thing. And nothing is wrong with those things in general. Like in theory, those things are not bad, right?
Yeah.
But not understanding the power of depth.
Yes.
Like you're talking about depth. Like the reason
go deep,
why, the reason why some people are still relevant or have been relevant for 30 or 40 years is because they had depth. Like prime example. I mean, I'll use the example and then we'll move on. And I'll ask you the last 3 questions because I'm trying not to make this thing 3 hours.
Listen, we having a good time.
Yes,
good.
But you said something that really struck me, and it made me think of this. That let's look at even some of the biggest artists we think in music. Like the greatest artists had hits over the decades.
Yep.
Not in a specific amount of time. Like they were able to have hits. I can think of several artists. I mean, Michael Jackson had hits in several decades. Yeah. Beyonce has had hits in several decades. You go on and on with all these people who have consistently put out hit songs after hit song.
Yeah.
Because the difference in them and some of these people that we don't talk about anymore, but we have the memories of, it's like, oh yeah, I remember that artist. They were fun when they had their 3 songs.
The one, right?
The ones
there are 3.
right. The 3 big songs they had. The ones that had lasting power did exactly what you said. They went deep and they were able to spread in the silence and in the quiet. Man,
you know what? Let me actually add to that. The reason why you want to go depth in the power of depth of what we're talking about right now is because you want a seat and not a season. You want a seat and not a season. It is good to just have a moment. Have a moment. Oh, I had a good year. I had a good 4 or 5 months. Yes. But what makes you valuable and kind of long lasting over years? What makes you legendary? What makes you when we think about legendary, when we really think about what that is, these are people that have dug deep, that have created life-changing, monumental, monumentous, whether it's in music, whether it's in basketball. We think about Michael Jordan, LeBron James, Beyonce. My God. I mean, it goes on and on and on. These people went deep. They went deep, and guess what? Because they went deep, they had a seat and not a season. And I think that we have a lot of people that want seasons and not seats.
Yep.
But if you want a seat, you have to go deep. If you want a season, just press 30 seconds on the microwave, and you will get you.
Well, I'm gonna move on because we can stay there, and it will be problematic. Listen, we're gonna have to have another conversation. You know that, right, Deon?
Definitely. Come on, man.
This is the BCI Entrepreneur of the Year.
Let's go.
I have to point it out. But moving on. So my last 3 questions is, number one, how are you paying it forward? You know, you talk about how you're investing in your team, but what are some things you're kind of doing outside of the company or just in your life to really pay it forward? Because I'm gonna say this real quick, a caveat to this question before we even move forward. Your story, bro, is powerful.
Wow.
It is profound. It is powerful. It is evidence of the grace of God. And it's also evidence of someone that's willing to persevere through whatever they've been through. Because a lot of people want to get in business, but they don't have the perseverance to keep pushing past all the impediments that they experience in the process. You know, I'm gonna say this, and I know you got to answer this question, but I'm gonna say this real quick. I remember sharing at a seminar that I did 2 years ago that just based on statistics, most businesses don't last past 2 years. Most don't last past 2 years. And if you get to 5 years, oh my gosh, you made it, because
it's like creme de la creme.
Yes, you are the cream of the crop, because a lot of people create infrastructures within their business, like you said, talked about earlier. They create the infrastructure that is for an instant moment and a lot of sustaining moment. And I think you hit the nail right on the head. But I had to say that because you know it's my podcast and blog.
I got you.
but answer the question: man. How are you paying it forward?
Yeah, for sure. You know, it's so funny that you asked me that question. Like today, I just got off the phone call. So I'm a product of a private school. You know, I went to private schools, you know, pretty much my entire childhood. And so in the city of Chicago, one thing that we're seeing private schools shut down all over the place, you know, whether it's oh yeah, man, it's so bad. You know, enrollment is low. You know, no one wants to go, no one wants to go to private schools anymore, you know. And then too, I came from a Christian school, you know, and so, and no one wants to spend the money on Christian education. I'm sorry. You know, they want to go to public schools and charter schools and Catholic schools, you know. And so, one thing that I'm doing, to pay it forward is, with private schools that are seeing low enrollment, more so with one specific school that I'm working with right now, I said, listen, I understand that your doors are about to close. And we had a really transparent moment. Yeah. Doors are about to close. Literally, if this school doesn't see a certain amount of income in X amount of time, then they will have to shut their doors. Yeah. So literally, me and her, the principal of that school, we met, and we came up with a strategy to, for her to work with our team completely free, to come up with a strategic positioning in the marketplace to attract more students, better quality parents, I don't like to say better quality students, every student is a good student, right? Quote unquote, I don't think I was a great student, but anyway, I was crazy, but providing them with the strategy, the tools, the resources to be able to attract more students, enroll more students in school so they can keep their doors open, so they can keep and also so they can keep their jobs for their employees, so they can keep the teachers coming back to school. So also because, I do value a certain kind of education, and I think that, if you have the tools in your business to be able to be of service, then you should, in what you just said, pay it forward. So that's one way that we're doing it. We're partnering with private schools around the city of Chicago to be able to give them strategy, positioning, creative, to be able to market themselves, to be able to attract better quality parents and students, to keep their doors open, and to also bring more revenue into the schools so they can have more impact in the community. So that's just kind of one thing that I've taken to heart personally, that I'm making sure to continue to push to do with myself and my business.
Okay, that's great. We can have a whole off-camera conversation about education, but I wrote my senior paper in college. I wrote my senior paper in college on education in my home state, and that's a whole side conversation, but we're not gonna do that right now. But my second to last question is, who or what are you reading right now, or are you listening to a podcast, or how are you getting fed right now?
So one book that I'm reading right now is a book called Zag, and this book Zag is actually by a guy named Marty Neumeier. He's one of the And this book is specifically about branding, marketing, and advertising right now. I study multiple books throughout the week, but I always make sure to kind of hone in on my craft to see, what are the things that are necessary that I need to know, that are top of mind, market trends, etc. So this specific book has been amazing to me, just in my depth of knowledge and how I can help my customer, my client out. And so Zach has, again, if you're into marketing, into branding, into advertising, or anything of that nature, you have to get this book. Zach is really an incredible book by Marty Newmeyer to get. So yeah, that's what book that I'm reading right now. But that's, that's after the John Maxwell's, and that's after all of those other books that I've already consumed over the years. So
I understand. My guy has always been Miles Monroe. I used to love.
Oh man, I love Miles Monroe.
Monroe.
But he's a legend.
Yeah, that's a whole nother conversation. But my last question, and we're gonna sign off for now. But we definitely are gonna have another conversation on leading, Deon. Because man,
let's do it, man.
You've given so much wisdom in this conversation.
Thank you.
So, what song would you use to describe yourself, and why?
For sure. Oh man, if I could use a song to describe myself, man, just where I am right now in life. There are two songs actually that I want to go to. Okay. One is, it's going to be funny. One is "Congratulations" by Post Malone. Like when I yes, and I'll tell you, like literally. And the reason why that song spoke so much to me is because people literally, when I graduated from school, and then I started to experience some level of success in life, I had people come up to me and apologize to me because they didn't think I was going to do anything in life. I had so many people come up to me and literally apologize and say, "You know what, Deon, I'm sorry. I counted you out. I didn't think that you were going to do anything. And I used to talk about you," and they came to me and apologized. Wow. And so, when he says, "My mama told me," they thought I'd never make it. Now they saying congratulations. You know what I'm saying? Now they saying congratulations. I'm like, yup, exactly. Just a humble brag a bit. You know what I'm saying? In the most humble way possible. No, I'm playing. But and then to accompany that song as well, definitely, man, it's a song by Travis Green called "Made Away." When he said this part, "And I'm standing here only because you made a way." And I know that song probably came out about 4 or 5 years ago now. Wow, it's been that long, and kind of took the world by storm, but that part of the song, "And I'm standing here only because you made a way," I mean, that speaks to me on so many levels. Again, there's nothing that I did that was ultra special. When I used to hear people say that and they had acquired a level of success, I'd be like, "Oh, you're lying. No, you did something." When I say as a living witness, there is nothing that, that just made me stand out. I didn't go to the best schools. There's nothing like that. I'm sure I made enough bad choices for 3 people, but despite that though, those lyrics, "And I'm standing here only because, you made a way, and you speaking to God made a way for me," that is, that has been kind of my life story, my life testimony. My story is one of great perseverance, and so, and so anytime I can speak to helping others persevere, helping others to go the extra mile, that's always what I'll do, and then also, I also like to say this as well, typically, why I say that God, that I'm standing here because, God made a way. It's because, and I actually go back to something that Dr. Miles Monroe stated. He said this. He says that the richest place in the world is the graveyard. Yes. And why is it the graveyard? Because, typically people go to the grave with their talents, their skills, their gifting, without ever bringing them to the earth, whether it was because of fear, whether it was because of, they didn't think they were good enough to do it, whether they feel like they were qualified, kind of what we were speaking to earlier in the podcast, so they die with so much wealth in their, in what they were supposed to bring. I believe before Tesla, before Tesla was Tesla, I'm sure that there were about 3 other Teslas. Before, Steve Jobs created Apple, there were about 4 other Steve Jobs, that never quite, that this earth never got to see their gift, and so, and I could have been one of those people that took their skill to the grave, but I'm standing here,
only because
he made a way. And so, so, yeah, those are definitely 2 of my songs for sure.
Well, Deon, man, dude, this is going to encourage and motivate leaders to step out and just people in general to step out and do what is in them to do. So thank you for your time, bro.
Absolutely,
I really
man.
Appreciate you. It's been a pleasure.
Okay. Dude, Lee, thank you for having me, man. I cannot wait to see, what you're going to be doing even now and even in the future, man. I'm so happy to be a part of this journey with you. So thank you for having me on the show.
All right. Thanks, brother.
Thank you for watching and or listening to this week's episode of Leading with Lee. If you have not done it yet, subscribe today on YouTube and all podcasting platforms. To get more information about me and what I'm doing, email me at scottconsultations@gmail.com or follow me on social media on Twitter and especially Instagram at Lee A. Scott II or Lee A. Scott II. Thank you for watching this week's episode. I really appreciate it. Much love, and let's get started.